Let me tell you about the strangest, most terrifying night of my life. It happened last October in my quiet little house in Colorado Springs. I'm just an ordinary guy, working from home fixing computers. I like my peaceful way of living. But what happened that Thursday night changed everything. It was around 8:30 in the evening. I just finished dinner, just some leftover spaghetti. I was washing dishes later in the kitchen. The house was quiet, except for the sound of water running and the TV playing an old sitcom in the background. But then I heard it. 3 loud, clear knocks on my front door. That was unusual. I don't get many visitors, especially not at night. I don't have a doorbell camera, but I always check before opening the door. I wiped my hands on a towel and looked through the peephole, but nothing. Just my empty porch and the dim glow of the streetlight across the lawn. I turned on the porch light and opened the door just a little. I kept the chain lock on and peeked out, but still, I didn't see anyone. I was about to close the door, and that's when I saw it. A plain brown cardboard box sitting right in the middle of my doormat. No label, no shipping information. I knew the box definitely hadn't been there earlier. When I took out the trash, I hesitated at first about whether I should take the box inside or not, but curiosity got the better of me. So I brought it to my kitchen table and carefully cut through the tape with the steak knife. I slowly opened the box. Inside was a small black velvet pouch, the kind jewelry stores use. At first, I thought someone was doing some kind of prank on me, but when the ring fell into my palm, my heart stopped. It was my college ring from Arizona State University, the one I lost 4 years ago while hiking in Sedona. I knew it was mine because of the tiny JWB engraved inside. These were my initials. I remembered that day clearly. I'd taken the ring off to apply sunscreen and accidentally dropped it. My friends and I searched for hours. I even called the park rangers for weeks afterward, but it was gone. Until now, I sat there staring at it, trying to make sense of how it could have ended up on my doorstep. Maybe someone found it in a pawn shop. Maybe they tracked me down through alumni records, but there was no note, no explanation. Just my long-lost ring in a mysterious box. About an hour later, around 9:30, I started hearing a kind of strange music coming from outside. At first, I thought it might be wind chimes from a neighbor's house, but as I turned down the TV, I realized it was a flute. Not cheerful music. This was slow, haunting. Just 3 notes going up and down in this endless loop. I went to the front window and carefully pulled back the curtain. My porch light showed the front yard was empty, but the music seemed to be coming from near the sidewalk. I grabbed my phone and a flashlight, my heart pounding as I stepped outside. The night was completely silent, except for that eerie flute melody. I followed the sound down my driveway toward the street. About 20 feet from my property line, there's a young pine tree I used to mark where my lawn ends. I ducked behind it and peeked around the trunk. What I saw there froze me in place. Under the streetlight stood a figure, a woman in a long black coat that touched the ground. Her face was hidden in shadow, but I could see she was holding a wooden flute to where her mouth should be. Those same 3 notes kept playing, but her fingers weren't moving. The music just kept going. I tried to get closer to see her face, but then I stepped on a twig. The flute stopped instantly. Her head snapped toward me so fast, I actually heard her neck crack. I still couldn't see her face under that hood, but I could feel her looking at me. She stared at me, as if she was looking at my soul. But then, she started coming toward me, not running like a normal person. She just moved, gliding across the ground without her coat even flapping. I didn't wait to see more. I turned and ran for my life, my sneakers slipping on the wet grass. I didn't hear footsteps behind me, just this strange whispering sound, like fabric dragging on pavement. I crashed through my front door. It was so hard even the windows rattled, slamming it shut and locking every bolt. My hands shook so badly I could barely dial 911. When the police arrived, they found deep footprints in my lawn, like someone heavy had been standing there for a long time. The tracks led to the street, and then just stopped. No car tracks, nothing. That ring sits in my nightstand drawer now. Sometimes I take it out just to look at it. The metal's always cold, no matter how long I hold it. And sometimes, when the wind blows just right at night, I swear I can still hear those 3 flute notes drifting through my closed windows. I've worked night shifts at the Tacoma warehouse for 3 years now. You get used to the quiet streets at 2 a.m., the way your headlights are the only thing cutting through the darkness on the road. My little house sits between 2 empty lots. Gives me privacy. But sometimes that privacy feels a little too heavy. It was one of those freezing northwest nights where the air hurts your face. I'd just pulled into my driveway after a 10-hour shift, my bones aching from loading freight all night. The street was dead quiet, except for the crunch of my boots on frost, and that's when I saw him. A man sat perfectly still on the park bench across the street, not huddled against the cold like you'd expect, just sitting bolt upright, hands on his knees, head slightly bowed. No winter coat, just a thin gray jacket that looked soaked through. The streetlight above him flickered, casting weird shadows across his sunken face. I paused with my keys halfway to the door. Something about the way he sat there, it wasn't right. People fidget. They check their phones. They don't sit like statues in freezing weather. My gut said to call the cops, but I talked myself out of it. Maybe he was homeless. Maybe he was drunk. Either way, not my problem at 2:30 in the morning. The moment my front door closed behind me, I triple locked it. I hadn't done that since I moved in. 15 minutes later, I was shoveling cold lo mein into my mouth when I heard it. A soft knock at the front door. Not the loud bang of a salesman. Not the quick rap of a neighbor. This was careful, like someone testing if the door would open on its own. My fork clattered to the plate. Through the peephole, I saw him, the man from the bench, standing way too close to my door. Up close, he looked worse. His skin had this grayish tint, like meat left in the fridge too long. Water dripped from his sleeves, forming little puddles on my welcome mat. But his eyes, Christ, his eyes were black pits sunk deep into his skull. Please, his voice didn't match his lips. The words came out clear as a bell, like he was standing right beside me instead of through a door. I just need your phone. My son went missing. Every hair on my neck stood up. I'd seen enough horror movies to know you don't open the door for shit like this. When I didn't answer, he said it again, louder. Please, he's only 8 years old. The way his mouth barely moved made my stomach twist. I backed away so fast I tripped over the coffee table. That's when the pounding started. Help me! Please help me! Each bang shook the door in its frame. I sprinted to my bedroom and grabbed the shotgun my dad gave me when I moved here. Never thought I'd actually need it. I'm armed! I shouted, racking a shell into the chamber. I shouted again, saying I'd call the cops. The pounding didn't stop. I yanked the door open, finger on the trigger, but the porch was empty, no footsteps running away, no car peeling out, just my breath fogging in the cold air and those weird little puddles on the mat. I checked the street. The bench was empty, no sign of anyone, and that's when I heard it. An old-fashioned phone ringtone coming from beside my house, the kind of digital chirp you'd hear from a flip phone in 2005. My hands shook so bad I almost dropped the shotgun as I crept around the side of the house. And there, sitting in the dirt beneath my bedroom window, was a busted-up Nokia. The screen was cracked, the casing covered in grime. When I flipped it open, the battery compartment was empty, but the screen lit up anyway. One contact, son. I threw that thing like it was a live grenade and bolted inside. The cops found it the next morning, but their flashlight revealed what mine hadn't. Tiny fingerprints all over my bedroom window, child-sized. The security camera above my door glitched out from 2:25 to 2:35 a.m. that night. Just static. Neighbors reported hearing shouting, but saw no one on the street. The Nokia had been discontinued for 15 years. No prints but mine. A missing persons report from 2007 matched the description. Father and son vanished during a fishing trip near Point Defiance. The boy would be 23 now. I keep the shotgun by my bed these days. And sometimes, when the streetlight outside flickers just right, I swear I can see a dark shape sitting on that bench across the street, waiting. I was 12 years old when I learned that being alone doesn't mean you're not being watched. This was back in 2007, when having a computer in your bedroom still felt like a privilege. My parents went out for their anniversary dinner that night, leaving me home alone for the first time past midnight. I wasn't scared. I was thrilled. Finally, I could stay up as late as I wanted, eating junk food and talking to my friends on MSN, without anyone telling me to go to bed. My room was dark, except for the glow of my bulky CRT monitor. The blue light reflected off the half-open blinds behind me, casting weird shadows across my Star Wars posters. I had my usual setup: a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos, a warm can of Mountain Dew, and my little green army man figurine that I'd spin absently while typing. I was chatting with maybe 6 people at once, some from school, others I'd met playing RuneScape. One guy, who went by Blue Nova 97, had added me a few weeks earlier. He seemed cool, told me he was from Germany, always had funny things to say about American culture. We mostly talked about video games and music. That night, our conversation was normal at first, but then, out of nowhere, he sent, "Cool Ranch and Mountain Dew? That's a stomachache waiting to happen." I froze mid-bite, chip crumbs tumbling onto my keyboard. I scrolled up through our chat history. I definitely hadn't mentioned what I was eating or drinking. Before I could respond, another message popped up. "You always fiddle with that army man when you're nervous. Right thumb and index finger." Spinning him clockwise, the blood drained from my face. My fingers jerked away from the plastic figure like it had burned me. A cold sweat broke across my back as I realized he wasn't guessing. He was describing exactly what I'd been doing. My eyes darted to the cheap webcam clipped to the top of my monitor. The little green activity light was off, like it always was when not in use. I reached up with shaking hands and turned it to face the wall. Another message. "Don't bother. I've seen enough anyway." I nearly knocked over my soda as I scrambled to unplug the webcam. The USB port made a horrible cracking sound as I yanked it free. I threw the camera across the room, where it hit my dresser with a plastic clatter. The MSN window flashed again. "Your room is messier than I expected. Clean your socks off the floor." I spun around in my chair, scanning every shadow in my room. The closet door was slightly ajar. My bedskirt brushed the carpet in a way that could hide anything. Behind me, the gap in the blinds suddenly felt like an open invitation. I typed with trembling fingers, "How are you doing this?" The response came instantly. "You bite your nails when you think no one's looking. You scratched your left elbow 3 minutes ago, and you really shouldn't pick your nose like that. It's gross." I slammed my laptop shut so hard the screen went black. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I backed away from the desk, knocking over my soda. The sticky liquid spread across my notebooks, but I didn't care. For the next 2 hours, I sat in the brightly lit living room with all the TVs on, jumping at every creak of the house. When my parents came home, I pretended to have fallen asleep watching a movie. The next morning, I booted up my computer with dread pooling in my stomach. Blue Nova 97 was gone, not just offline, but erased from my contacts completely. His chat history had vanished. When I searched his username on every forum we'd frequented, I found nothing. It was like he'd never existed. But here's what keeps me up at night. Last month, 15 years later, I was cleaning out my childhood home after my parents moved. In the back of my old desk drawer, beneath piles of school papers, I found that little green army man. When I picked it up, something fell out of its base, a tiny black speck no bigger than a grain of rice. After some research, I learned it was a micro camera, the kind that could transmit to a receiver within 300 feet. And the worst part? When I checked Google Maps, I realized something about our old neighborhood. That abandoned house directly behind ours, the one with the overgrown yard where no one ever lived, it had a perfect line of sight to my bedroom window.